it's all pre-taped.
Hello, everyone. I'm Diane Kresh, Director of Arlington Public Library and the host of Live from Diane's Living Room. We're not live, but we are local. And I'm joined by three absolutely amazing young people today. I know two of them quite well, and I'm looking forward to getting to know the third one even better. So let's start with brief introductions. I went first, so how about you, Janelle? Just a quick who you are and what department you work in.
Hello, my name is Janelle Ortiz, and I work for the Department of Libraries, specifically the Shirlington branch.
Erin, please.
Hey, I'm Erin Potter, and I work for the Department of Environmental Services in the Transportation Division, doing public engagement.
Great. And Jerry.
Hi, my name is Jerusalem Solomon. I also go by Jerry, and I also do public engagement for the Department of Parks and Recreation.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'm delighted to have the three of you here today. We're going to talk about public service in a time of pandemic, because each of you has had very different experiences, and I think it would be fun to share them. But before we do that, let's back up a little bit. What drew you to public service originally? Was it a role model? Was it a public service announcement that you saw on TV? Was it a family member? Was it a call to service? What prompted you to go into this profession? So let's start with you, Jerry, since I know you the least of the three.
Sure. So I didn't start in local government. I actually started in the classroom. And I feel like that kind of prompted a theme that I know I'll probably carry with me for the rest of my life, which is having purpose in who you serve in everything that you do. So just being mindful in a lot of your actions, whether it's through work or otherwise. But obviously the impact that my kids left on me is so strong that it really motivates me to be mindful of who I'm working for at all times. So I'm proud that it's Arlington County now and the people of Arlington County, but it definitely was sparked by the 12th grade students of Mentorship Academy at Baton Rouge.
Oh, wow, 12th grade. Ooh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that would be a challenge.
Yes, a challenge, but definitely one that's worth it.
Yeah, no, that's so amazing. So what drew you to come to this area? So you were in Baton Rouge. Are you from there originally?
No, actually, I was born here.
Okay.
I lived off of Columbia Pike until about second grade when my parents moved to Fairfax County. But coming back home for my own personal reasons, and then having gotten a degree in public administration while I was away, I kind of wanted to expand my reach as a public servant and my experience as a public servant. So community engagement for a county that I feel very invested in was important to me, and that's why I'm here.
Awesome. Yeah, I grew up here as well. I grew, you and I were probably not growing up at the same time, but I also had deep roots. And even when I lived in DC for a long time and worked for another institution, I still had the connection to Arlington. And so for me too, it was a thrill to come back and serve the community that I was raised in. So how about you, Erin? What drew you to public service?
So I'm from the Midwest originally, and I went to school at a small liberal arts college in Wisconsin. And through study there, was studying sociology. And when I graduated, was looking for AmeriCorps Vista listings in Chicago, and really was interested in working for a service-minded organization, sort of similar to what Jerry shared. Kind of wanted the work that I do to have purpose and be part of making the community and the place that I live, all that it can be, and provide that opportunity to others. And for me, I started in affordable housing. And affordable housing organizing and working for sort of community development corporations.
I noticed, Jerry, so you were also in AmeriCorps, did I get that right?
Yeah, my teaching started with Teach for America. So I was placed in Baton Rouge. Mhm.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I've known some other young people who came up that route. Really, I wish they'd had programs. They had the Peace Corps and Vista when I was a young person, but really rewarding work. And Janelle, I know a little bit more about you, so please tell us what drew you to public service.
So I feel my journey was a little bit more happenstance. I don't think I really intended to go that route, but I worked when I was in undergrad. I worked at my school's library, and I really enjoyed it. And then after I graduated, I moved to DC, and I started working for DC Public Library because I was like, well, I worked in a library before. I didn't know the differences, how drastic they were between a public library and an academic library. And then once I was in that environment, I realized I really like this work. I really like what I'm doing. I like the difference that I can make. And that's kind of how I entered into libraries and public service in general.
Okay. And did any one of you have specific role models when you were growing up? Was there a teacher, a neighbor, a church person, a family member who didn't necessarily lead you into public service, but helped shape who you are and your values and what is important to you? So let's start, we'll go reverse. How about you, Janelle?
Yeah, actually, I would probably say my mom.
Okay.
She's a teacher. My sister was a teacher. My grandmother was a teacher. So we just have a lot of teachers in the family. And I kind of thought for a while maybe I would be an art teacher
Mhm.
because my undergraduate degree is Bachelor of Fine Arts. So I was like, well, I probably really can't do much with that, but maybe I could be an art teacher. And so just seeing how much of an impact they make. Through their work, I thought I would go that route. And then libraries ends up being kind of adjacent to teaching, but different. And I feel like that suits me better.
Well, you've also been able to use your arts background, producing or being on the team that's producing Quaranzine,
Yes.
is our online magazine of poetry and drawings and oh, you know, pictures, photos, etc., which I think has been such an exciting thing for the community to participate in. So, all right, how about you, Erin?
Yeah, so in terms of like trying to think through people from when I was much younger, definitely had people in college, but I think I'd go with, and they're gonna probably get a kick out of this if they ever see it, but my mom has this amazing group of women that when we were younger, they were known as the Garden Club, and mom would go hang out with the Garden Club. And of course, when you grow up, you figure out that that's code for mom's gonna do what mom's gonna do and have fun with her friends. But they were this very cool group of women to be, you know, showed you all the different kinds of, they all had different careers and came from really different walks of life and were friends kind of because their kids were in the same grade, but I wasn't friends with all their kids. And so it was really just that community that they had been able to make among and for themselves.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was very cool, and very cool to sort of, any single one of them would give you advice, give you book recommendations, talk to you about stuff.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I really appreciate that.
So we will make every effort to make sure that your mom and all of her friends see this broadcast. So so tell mom to watch for it. How about you, Jerry? Role models, specific, special someone in your life?
I think I'll keep with the theme of parents, but my dad played a very big part in who I am today. He didn't finish school. He was an immigrant from Ethiopia, but he is pretty much the reason why I'm like, I would say who I would give credit to for like me being morally grounded in the way that I feel I am. So I think it has a lot to do with how he always kind of thought of any group that he was in as a family.
Right.
There are a lot of like social structures in Ethiopia that we've brought here. And he tries to make sure that there is community, almost to the point where I didn't even know that the people who I was raised with weren't my cousins. Like, and it comes in not only a relaxed familial structure, but a strategic structure in order to provide support for people who are essentially strangers that become family.
Right. There's a very active Ethiopian community in Arlington. So were they a part of that too when they first moved here?
No, not necessarily. We have like subgroups called Aders or Andinets. It's a little complicated to explain, but I know the group that you're talking about, ECDC,
Yes, right.
who I've worked with in my role at the county manager's office and like through projects like the census and things like that. And they do amazing work kind of on the county level or the regional level. So, but the one I'm talking about is more local.
Okay. Okay. So let's transition a little bit to the days that we're in currently. We've been in a pandemic now since the middle of March. It has transformed just about everything that we would recognize as familiar. I mean, compare where we are this year to where we were last year. Most of us would have been planning to go home for a holiday and planning a meal and planning to take time off with friends and family. And according to the CDC, that's not a really great idea. So I don't even know if I'm going to see my youngest son. I've only seen him once this year, and it's tough. So, but aside from that, the pandemic, how has it shaped your view of the work that you do for the county?
I can start.
Yeah, great.
I feel like it's definitely challenged us, and kind of with that challenge, it's brought on a lot of amazing opportunities. I think that we've always kind of been in this space where we're trying to connect more or like limit the barriers to access to engagement.
Right.
And a lot of that has been in how we show up virtually. But now, because we've kind of been limited to that as our major form of access, now we have Wi-Fi access in the parks, and now we have more virtual engagements. Now we have like more recorded presentations, and we are seeing engagement numbers go up. Mm-hmm. It still has the barrier for people who are affected by the digital divide.
Right.
But even then, that was always kind of a conversation we were having, and now we're approaching it with a lot more urgency. Right. So I'm kind of, excited to see where we end up, because I think a lot of the things we're learning are going to carry on in our regular practices post-pandemic.
Right. So what you've been active in public engagement. Are there things aside from the digital divide that you're doing differently? Are you providing resources and information in more languages? Are you mixing up the hours for meetings when people can have more flexibility about attending a public meeting? Is that part of your thinking as well?
I think the flexibility has actually come in having more like robust static engagements where people can join us at any time, as opposed to having to join us at a certain time. Making sure that if it is something where they have to join us at a certain time, it's being recorded and they can still have the mechanisms available to provide feedback. Right. So basically, like trying to fill in all of the gaps that that will have to be addressed because we don't see people in public or in person as much. But yeah, I think it's helped for people to be able to kind of join us and contribute at any time that feels appropriate to them.
Good to hear that we're doing new strategies. How about you, Erin?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of the things that Jerry has talked about. I think we had been, trying to do a lot of different things with a lot of different tools, and being forced into that digital only space. That's our main focus. It has sort of had us learn about new tools. We're all sort of curious. A lot of, we're getting a lot of good ideas, even from like everyone right now is trying to create community and is trying to find connection and figure out how to reach out to people, whether that's, their school kids or like just connecting with their grandparents. And so even that sort of collective learning that's happening sort of outside of Arlington County, even and how we can find each other and connect and share share feedback, but also share sort of experience, I think has been valuable. And I think it's also, I think Jerry kind of talked about this, but we used to sort of, go to events where the people are, and we can't do that as much anymore, or it's the places that we can do that have changed and people's needs have changed.
Right.
So trying to be responsive and respectful of that, and sort of make things as easy to engage with for people who maybe have limited time too, but also thinking about kind of some old school stuff that once I think we had the internet, it was like, oh, we don't need to do like a project mailer anymore, or provide a phone-in hotline that has information in multiple languages. And we've kind of pulled back some of those older methods, and they're working, right? We're reaching a different people. Like if you do an every door direct mail to a neighborhood in a low response census area, you get different voices coming in that aren't connected to our normal channels.
Absolutely.
And that's not new or particularly exciting, but it is something that, we're having to think differently.
I mean, I think that idea that both of you have addressed of multiple channels and being flexible and trying new things as opposed to this is the way we do it has been so important. Janelle, has anything changed in the library?
Yes, as you know, others may not be aware, but libraries has been operating out of one location and a very limited model of service where people can strictly pick up holds. We have, all of our programming is virtual, so that has been a new challenge. But one silver lining of that has been we've actually been getting some people from out of state attending programs,
Oh, wow.
which is really interesting. I did a book club and there was someone from California. So stuff like that is cool. But, there's the challenge. My book club specifically used to meet in a bar, and I don't know, it was more of an atmosphere
Sure.
and just the community, as others have said. We did try to build community through the quarantine, which Diane mentioned, which really the feedback and the response to that was so amazing. I think that was one way that people were able to connect and kind of just express themselves and, relate with other people in their community.
Connecting with people while also observing safe social distancing, mask, being very careful about your personal health. I'm curious, this has been it was a presidential year, and we're not going to talk about politics, but there were opportunities for many, many, many forms of activism and volunteerism. Is that a space that each of you, like you have your day job, but are you also active in other ways? And if so, what kinds of causes?
I could go.
Okay.
So I actually was a poll worker for the first time this year. And that was really exciting, but also nerve-wracking.
Sure.
I had to go to all these trainings and stuff like that. But I like being informed. I like being an informed citizen so that I can help share that information to others. And it was honestly cool to see the people coming in. My job for like it was a long day. I don't think people realize this. You have to report at 5 a.m.
Yes.
So I didn't realize that when I signed up, but then I was like, well, I'm committed now, so whatever. So my primary responsibility was checking people in and making sure they were registered to vote, being able to be part of that process. So yeah, I want to be more active. I'm finishing up my master's degree soon, so I do have plans to volunteer for other things.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Master's in library science.
Yes.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah.
Wanted to make sure. Yeah, I was a poll worker in March, right before we shut down, when news of coronavirus was still starting, early days of percolating, and it was the primary here in Arlington. And now I've done it a couple of times, and it's unbelievably rewarding. I would say for anybody who wants to see democracy from the ground level, and the spirit and the camaraderie, and it was just an incredible feel-good experience. So good for you. How about you, Erin? Activism stuff that you're doing?
Yeah, sort of have been trying to help out and support where I can and sort of learn things myself. I've been part of some sort of small groups of folks who are talking and thinking through things. In terms of being able to use like sort of specialized skills that I have to help out, I did ride marshal for the Arlingtonians for Justice bike ride that they did around Arlington, which was an excellent thing to be part of. The group organized it really well, and you know, we had hundreds of people riding to different places of Black history here in Arlington. And
Oh, cool. When was that, Erin? When was that?
oh my God, does anyone remember what time anything happened? It was a gorgeous day. Oh man, I don't remember.
That's good enough, but I just think that's a really cool idea.
Yeah, it was, yeah, and I was happy to be part of it because I used to work for the Bike Arlington program. And so
Sure.
led rides around Arlington a lot. And so when they were like, we need ride marshals, I was like, I got you.
Thing. When I was first director, we used to do a tour de bibliothèque, and we'd have people sign up and we would ride to all 8 of our locations, and it was really, really fun. So I'd love to be able to bring that back. Okay, Jerry, how about you? Activism.
Sure. Well, first, I just like to say, Erin, that's super cool, especially because I like rubbed elbows with her at one of the protests, and
Awesome.
I was like, this is some great camaraderie. I love seeing her around. But yeah, so actually, I was part of last year's cohort for Leadership Arlington's Young Professionals program, and after that, I kind of funneled into their advisory council.
Okay.
And they, ever since the pandemic hit, they've been hosting these really great, well, they were doing this in person before, but they've navigated this in the virtual space. They call it Causes and Cocktails, where they pick a cause quarterly and discuss it with a panel of community leaders who can kind of give insight on how we can participate and get involved. And one of the, especially around the Black Lives Matter protests.
Right.
At that time, I helped plan a panel discussion around voting. So basically, how can we kind of use this energy in order to funnel it towards like one of the many productive spaces that we can get into. So I helped organize a panel of representatives from Virginia 2021, When We All Vote, Michelle Obama's initiative, and the Arlington branch NAACP. And we had some young professionals join us and ask questions and see about their upcoming activities in which they could get involved, kind of like building some sort of pipeline for young people to get into volunteerism in this community. So that was really exciting, and they're continuing to have these discussions. The next one's going to be on mental health, and I advise everyone to go to Leadership Arlington's website to register.
That's so great. I mean, activism and volunteerism is so important. Sometimes we tend to get complacent. Oh, we got the result we wanted this time, so now I can kick back. And no, you have to push even harder. So I want to talk a little bit about generational differences. I am a boomer, which should be very obvious. And I have 2 sons who are millennials, and they tell me pretty often how I have ruined it for them, me personally. So if you had an opportunity to get the ear of a boomer and say, you know, you really ought to do blah, 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 and that would make the county better, more inclusive, work better.
Wow, I'm curious to know what your sons referred to. There's a lot.
Everything. Let's see, racial justice, climate change.
Actually, yeah. Those were the first 2 things that popped in my mind, was just, you know, learning about being anti-racist, reading up on those things. It doesn't matter. Everyone needs to learn about those topics, even if you are a person of color. Sometimes people might think, well, like, I'm in that category, so maybe I don't need to learn about it. But no, like, even within our communities, there's things like colorism, and then, like you said, environmental causes.
Yeah, I think we really missed the boat on that one, frankly. And there's people will be paying for decades. So what other kinds of issues?
Arlington is made up of a lot of millennials and is made up of a lot of renters. And I think it's with those folks that we're maybe not necessarily, and it's difficult to reach folks in that category for sort of programs and processes, and whether or not I have the policy to fix that. But definitely, I think a lot about how we might be able to set the table better to welcome those people into, well, or not even, maybe it's change the room, right? To sort of have a process where those folks feel like their voices can be heard and listened to. And that model might not look like what our maybe folks have gotten used to here in Arlington. And I guess it's like being open to trying a new thing so that we can bring in more of those voices that do make up a significant part of our population here.
No, I think it's great. So the takeaways for me were change the room and invite other voices.
I feel like I'm going to piggyback on both what Janelle and Erin said. I really appreciated what Erin said about setting the table, because to me that sounds like accessibility in a way where people probably don't, I feel like people have a hard time connecting with the opportunities they have to really like recognize their power. You know, like every Arlington resident has the ability to sit on a commission, for example, but is the table set for them to feel like they can be that person, you know? And that kind of happens in a lot of our spaces. So, you know, I'd like to see how we can fix that or make it more accessible to people. And then, yeah, what I really appreciated about what Janelle said was, you know, making sure that people are aware of kind of the systemic issues that are barriers towards equity in our county.
Right.
When she talked about colorism, or if I think about like housing policies and things like that, it's kind of like reading up on that history has given us the language to have this discussion. Absolutely. When in the past, people have felt like, I recognize that racism is wrong, and I recognize that I feel some type of way about something, but I don't even know how to bring it to the table or to the discussion. So I actually really appreciate all the work that the libraries has been doing, because you know, giving us those resources has allowed us to feel comfortable enough to engage when in the past we might not have been.
Right. Well, we're working hard on that, and we still have a ways to go. And we haven't even touched on some of the racial equity issues that the country is dealing with, or really not dealing with, but that's a topic for another conversation. As we wind down here, it's an occupational requirement that I ask people what was the last book they read, or if you want to mention a book that you read recently, or maybe sometime that really had an impact and you still think about it. So who would like to go first?
I can go first.
Okay.
So I just finished reading a book called Tower in the Sky. It's by Hiwat Tefera, and it has very limited copies, so it's hard to find the book. I tried looking on Amazon and it costs like $132 for one copy.
Oh my gosh.
but lucky enough, my neighbor had a copy, so he let me borrow it. And the reason why I wanted to read it was because it's about like an Ethiopian revolution in the 70s.
Oh, okay.
And it speaks a lot to my dad's history. So, and my dad has passed since then. So he didn't really share too much about that, but I was lucky enough to read this narrative that kind of gave me a window into how he tried to serve his community. He actually knew the author, and I didn't know that until after I had read the book. Apparently, there is a copy in my house somewhere, in my mom's house, and it's signed by the author.
Oh, how neat.
To my dad. So I still have to look for it, but.
Fun. Yeah. And Jerry, what's the title again, please?
It's called Tower in the Sky.
And the author?
Hiwat Tefera.
Okay, great, thank you. How about you, Erin?
the last book that I finished is not going to be sort of nearly as awesome a story as that, Jerry. That was really wonderful. So thank you for sharing that with us. It sounds like an awesome book and such a cool connection. But I read Juliet Takes a Breath by Gabby Rivera. And I actually really appreciated this book because I think it maybe does some of the things that we're kind of talking about, that it doesn't assume you have a knowledge of anything, but it's like about a queer woman who's like challenging her boomer feminist idol in Portland. And like, yeah, she's doing learning, this older white woman is doing learning, and they make it okay, that learning. And it was an easy read, but it's like still a challenging read, and the issues that it talks about. So I feel like it's approachable for people who maybe, I want to like recommend it to folks who like maybe are just starting out on some of this journey, because it helps have that conversation in something that isn't like, a nonfiction book, I guess. I was impressed with everything the author was able to do and still have it be like this story that you feel compelled the characters with. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yes. It's taken a while for fiction writers to catch up with some of the most pressing issues that would have been much more, helpful for people of older generations. What's the title again, please, and the author?
Yeah, Juliet Takes a Breath by Gabby Rivera.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
And Janelle, you probably have read a book.
Yes, but the last book I read, I don't want to recommend. So I will I didn't really like it that much. So the one that I will recommend, it was really hilarious. It's available. I recommend that people listen to it. It's Issa Rae's memoir called Misadventures of Awkward Black Girl. And it's literally laugh out loud funny. Like, you will just be sitting there. Like, I was in the library, like shelving stuff, and I'm just laughing to myself, hoping no one's watching me sounding kind of crazy. But it's just so funny. But she also details like her life and her experiences as being like an awkward Black girl. And like how Erin says, the author of that book doesn't assume you know anything. It's kind of the same way in here. Like, she talks about like the hierarchy of different like natural Black hair textures and stuff like that. Like, she introduces things that are important for people to know, but she's honestly just so hilarious. It's a really funny book.
Yeah, the first time I ever read a book that talked about Black women and hair was Americana by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, and it was like, wow, revelatory. And the title again, please, Janelle, title and author?
Misadventures of Awkward Black Girl by Issa Rae.
Okay, that sounds great. So, last question. What do you most hope for in 2021, aside from that it won't be 2020?
I have my response. This is just me being honest, and hopefully it's not like awkward, or I don't know. I want to become a librarian, like have the actual title of librarian, since I'm just getting my degree.
Okay.
And that was one of my that was something that I was going to work on I was working on it in 2020, but I wanted to find positions and like apply and stuff. So in 2021, I'm hoping like doors open up.
That sounds great. And who knows, the director of Arlington Library may have something to do with that. You just never know. It could happen. All right, how about you, Erin? Aspirations for 2021?
Aspirations, like I guess I hope to be able to see my people.
Okay.
I also lost my dad earlier this year.
Oh,
and yeah, sorry.
Nope.
I'm sorry.
Being far away from my family. And I got that same alert, Diane, where the CDC's like, knock it off. And I've known that wasn't going to be happening, but it's still hard.
Hard.
And I'm lucky in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
A colleague actually just shared with me, and I thought this was particularly helpful, but he said it's just this thing, it's just this holiday. If we're all lucky, there will be many more. So
That's
2021. Yeah, I appreciated that he shared that. So
yeah, no, that's a beautiful way to look at it. And again, I remember when your dad passed, and it's hard. It never gets any easier. And my heart goes out to you. So how about you, Jerry?
Yeah, I think I would just say like continued growth in all aspects of our lives. I think that there are lessons we're learning from this period of our lives. And, I think we have made a lot of strides, partially reactionary, obviously. I mean, it's been a really, really weird year, but we've had to react to a lot very quickly. And some great things have come out of that, and I hope that we can sustain.
Right. Yeah, there's often a silver lining. It takes a little bit of a minute to find it, but I know from this conversation and knowing at least two of you, and now I know you, Jerry, and I'm going to come and insist that you join the WOW group, because that's how I got to know Erin and all her amazingness. And so I feel, as a aging county leader, very excited and gratified to know young people like you are in our midst, because you're the future and you're doing terrific things with heart and compassion and empathy and authenticity. And you walk the talk every day, and I'm learning from all of you. So keep doing what you're doing. We'll have you back on the show. Enjoy the holiday in whatever way you can. Give yourself a break. Show some gratitude and be safe. And most of all, be hopeful. Stay hopeful. Right? That's all we can do. So thank you all very much. It was a delightful conversation. I didn't expect it to be anything but, and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.